And we are happy now to bring in our top election official, Jocelyn Benson, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Secretary, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
What a crazy time right now to be in your position. The mail-in voting situation in the state of Michigan, where do things stand now?
Well, first, every citizen has a right to vote by mail in Michigan, and so we're focused on getting people their ballots and making sure they have options to return them if indeed they choose to vote prior to Election Day, which you have, again, a right to do in our state. So right now, you can request to vote from home or vote absentee or vote by mail or however you want to term it. And that request is available in a form on our website, michigan.gov/vote. You can submit it online or download it, sign it, and send it to your local clerk. Those ballots will then be sent around September 24th. That's 40 days prior to Election Day, so you can expect to receive it around then. And you can request the ballot you can request to vote by mail up through the Friday prior to Election Day. And but we're encouraging everyone to do so soon if you know what your preference is going to be. And of course, you'll always have the option to vote in person on Election Day as well.
Record turnout for the primary, and plus on top of the record turnout of voters, we have 1.6 million vote absentee for the August primary. What's November going to look like?
We're anticipating all those numbers are going to double. So 2.5 million voted in our August primary, will likely top 5 million for November. That's record turnout for Michigan. And we'll also see records broken for people voting by mail more than ever before. Already 2.4 million citizens have requested to vote by mail. And we're working with the post office and in consistent collaboration with them to ensure that the mail service is up to task and processing ballots effectively and smoothly. But we've also installed drop boxes all around the state in conjunction with local clerks where citizens can return their ballot at any time up until 8 p.m. on Election Day at one of those drop boxes to ensure that it's received. So lots of options for citizens this year. And the big thing to know and remember is michigan.gov/vote is your portal for answers on all of those questions throughout the process.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson with us on the Oakland County MegaCast all throughout the Oakland County area and our family of TV and radio stations. So the issues with the United States Postal Service has become a national issue. It's something that is being focused on in every single state in the union as this influx of mail-in voting is expected for the November election. Good to hear that there is a partnership going on and there is discussion going on between the Postal Service and the state to help alleviate that as best as possible. That being said, Secretary, do you believe that we're going to still have some major issues getting ballots in by mail in the fall, or in the fall for the November election? Do you believe that this should be a relatively smooth process?
Well, really, there's just a lot of unknowns right now. I mean, there are a lot of changes that came down that blindsided a lot of us who've been working we've redesigned our envelopes to make them more easily to go through the Postal Service. We've had continuous conversations with the Postal Service asking the Postal Service to do an all clear every day to move all that election mail through the system so that things move smoothly. So we're doing everything we can, but we're also providing alternatives if citizens simply would like to return their ballots through other means. And remember, you can always pick up your ballot any day, 40 days prior to Election Day, so beginning September 24th, in person at your clerk's office as well. So the big thing is to ensure and do everything we can to ensure the efficiency of the Postal Service. Recognize there's a lot of variables and inefficiencies and just uncertainties right now with that. But a lot of them can be overcome if you vote early and request and return your ballot early. But even so, we want voting to be convenient for you as well. So you can request and return your ballot in person at your clerk's office, return your ballot at any time up till Election Day at 8 p.m. at a local drop box or your clerk's office. And then you always have that in-person traditional voting option in your precinct on November 3rd as well, safe and secure for you if you choose to use it.
Jocelyn Benson, Michigan Secretary of State, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Leading up to the primary, we spoke at length with many of our clerks throughout the Oakland County area. One of the issues having to do with the mail-in the mail-in ballots, at the end of the day, it still takes them so long to process them. Is there anything in place or measures in place to allow them to start counting those votes early?
We need the legislature to give us the permission to give our clerks the ability to do that. Now, in many other states, that's what happens. You get the ballot, it's in an envelope, you check the signature, you open it, you sort it, you prepare it for counting, and then the counting begins on Election Day. But in Michigan, because basically our laws just haven't been updated to adjust for the new rights citizens have to vote by mail in our state that are relatively new, because of that, the laws haven't been updated to allow for the early processing of these ballots, was just simply a procedural change that needs to happen. It's not partisan at all, but of course everything becomes partisan in an election year. So that's the unfortunate thing. But my hope is the legislature will act, because that will have a direct result if they give our clerks more time to prepare our ballots to be counted on Election Day. That will mean a more efficient result and delivery of results after the polls close. But it will also, more importantly, ensure that our clerks and our election workers have additional time to prepare and do their jobs without being stressed and have to do everything really quickly in a limited amount of time that can often lead to errors and other challenges on Election Day.
So looking ahead to November, if those new measures aren't in place by that time, which it's looking like that's not going to happen, how much longer do you think it might take for us to be able to get the results of some of these elections because of so many mail-in ballots needing to be counted?
We're calling it Election Week instead of Election Day. I think, parts of Oakland County have taken advantage of what Clerk Lisa Brown has created with a centralized absentee counting processing board that enables a smooth and efficient processing of those ballots that actually in August delivered results quite quickly after the polls closed. So there are options for Oakland County. We may see other counties throughout the state either take advantage of those options or proceed with a less efficient process. It's really up to the clerk, and it's what's best for them. All that said, we're anticipating that we'll be on hand to support our clerks and our local election administrators as they go through the processing of counting of the absentee ballots. But then, we'll also work to make sure the public knows exactly where we are in the process throughout, even if it takes up until Friday to get the full results of the state. We want people to know that we're on it. We're working overtime to prepare and account, and just, we're asking everyone to be a little bit patient this year as we ensure the process goes smoothly and securely.
Yeah, it's going to require a lot of flexibility this year on everybody's part to adjust to the circumstances that we're under and the new laws that are in place, and to make sure that on all levels, whether it be from the citizen to the local clerks and the election workers to the top state and federal level, that we are working together to run a smooth election. We're joined right now by the Secretary of State of the state of Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, on the Oakland County Megacast. In about 15 seconds, we are going to say goodbye to our partners on WBFH as they return to their regular programming at the top of the hour. We thank you for tuning in on 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills to today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. On every other outlet, we'll continue on for a few more minutes with an extended interview with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. So, Secretary, in other states in their primaries, and as we're approaching the general election, there's been a lot of concerns about issues at the polls. People maybe not able to get in after the polls close, some issues of potential voter suppression. What is being done from your office at the state level to prevent those issues, which haven't generally been a big issue in the state of Michigan in our elections as we approach November?
Well, we have a couple of things. I mean, one, we want everyone to know their options for voting. So there's early voting, voting by mail, and also voting in person on Election Day. If people take advantage of all those options, even with record turnout, voters will be spread out enough among all of those choices that there's not going to be overcrowding or lines for any of them. And then in our most concentrated areas like Detroit, we're opening up satellite offices and other places where people can vote early or receive and return envelopes. So we're doing a number of things to make sure the process is as convenient and secure as possible, while also working to educate the public about the choices that they have going into this fall's elections. We're also hoping that many citizens will choose to step up and serve as poll workers. that helps ensure you can serve on the front lines of elections and protect our voters that way. You can go to michigan.gov/democracy-MVP in order to sign up, because our poll workers, our election workers, are democracy's most valuable players in the team sport that is election administration.
I know that in the primary there were thousands of votes that were not counted because they were spoiled for one reason or another. What do you want the general public to know and to understand about the process so that their vote does count this next election?
Well, that's right. Across the state of Michigan, there were 10,000 ballots that were mailed in but unable to be counted. Some of them were legitimate reasons, and other were related to, again, aspects of our current laws that have not yet been updated. Importantly, in Michigan, ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day in order to count. Now, that usually works if the post office service is online and as efficient as possible, and if most people are voting in person, which up until this year has been the case. This is the first year where that's going to flip, and that's going to be different, with more people voting by mail than ever before. And we need to update our laws to recognize that if more people are voting by mail, you need that safety net of allowing the few ballots that come in the day after Election Day to still count. Now, in the August primary, you had 6,400 ballots come in the days following the primary. This amounted to just a few dozen per jurisdiction. But that said, it's enough to statewide really have an impact on an aggregate. But at the local level, it's really not much of a heavy lift to add those additional ballots to the tabulation, especially if it's still ongoing at that point. Most other states do this, particularly for our military and overseas voters. Ballots may be delayed through circumstances that are outside of their control. So it's another change we've asked the legislature to make in the lead up to November, so to ensure that those ballots that are sent through the mail on time are counted, as long as they're received shortly after Election Day, because no one should be disenfranchised through no fault of their own because of failures of the Postal Service to deliver mail on time.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson with us on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV, radio, and other media outlets. Just a couple more minutes with you, Secretary Benson. Despite the pandemic, many of the Secretary of State's offices' services continue on. What are some of those services that are still available at the physical offices, and other ways that people can get other services from the Secretary of State without going to their general offices?
Well, the biggest change is that we've eliminated the wait at branch offices, meaning we can't have crowds in our branch offices due to the coronavirus pandemic. So all of our branch offices and visits are available by appointment only. We've recently extended our hours every day in our branch office to recognize that there is a bit of a backlog because our offices were closed for a few months. So right now, our offices are open until 7 p.m. every day, and citizens can make an appointment up until 7 p.m. And those were just released on Friday, so there's plenty of appointments available on our website at michigan.gov/SOS. Now, that said, we've also expanded ways for you to renew your plates and your licenses without having to go into an office, whether it's online or whether it's through the mail or at one of the various kiosks or self-service stations that are in place in Kroger's and Myers all throughout the state. Importantly, if you just have to renew your vehicle tabs, you don't need an office visit. Most people who need to renew their licenses also don't need an office visit. So by all means, don't go to the office if you don't have to. Use one of our other terminals or renew through the email or online to save yourself some time and the headaches of having to make a special trip to a branch.
So one question for you, because I know a friend that is going through this, their license has expired. The next possible visit is like months out. What happens to someone if they are pulled over and they have been unable to get in on a timely manner to be able to renew their license? Will that be forgiven? And I know the other issue is a lot of 16, 17-year-olds trying to get their license for their first time. They also are seeing a delay in trying to make that happen.
Yes, so that's, as I said, on Friday, we extended our office hours from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock every day, adding about 170,000 new appointments starting this week into the system, particularly for individuals with license needs who need to have their services done in person. So we also release a number of same-day appointments every morning for citizens who need to get in that day. And have a number of other workarounds as well. It is a new way of doing things, so we have to get accustomed to that. But anyone with specific questions can also just email me at secretary@michigan.gov. But we encourage everyone to also go onto the website now, because we have released 160,000 new appointments all throughout the state. And so only 17,000 have been taken as of this morning. So there's still plenty of slots available. And these are between now and September 30th that these slots are available.
Great information right there to share with all of our listeners and viewers. Jocelyn Benson, Michigan Secretary of State, we appreciate your time and thank you for being with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.
Thanks for having me. Take care.